Commissioner on Governor Newsom Agent's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. California Holiday Commission, the only and the sole commissioner from San Diego County. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all here this evening for a very special person who came to our city for a very special affair. I'd like to introduce Mayor Roger Hitchcock to you, allow him to say a few words and to welcome Mrs. King.
Michelle, thank you very much, and Ms. King, thank you for being in San Diego. We are delighted in many ways, and many other speakers will say some of them. I will only say that William Jones, other members of the council, and I, before the federal government acted, before the state government acted, the city of San Diego dedicated this day, January 20, in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King as a holiday, and included it in all of our labor contracts without negotiation, simply a voluntary act on our part. We have, for many, many years, this community tried in all of our individual ways to live up to the ideals expressed by your husband, to live up to the kind of community and future and world that he desired and gave his life for. And I'm delighted that you're here just to be able to express my personal appreciation for you and for the work of your late husband, Dr. Martin Luther King.
Thank you, Mayor Hitchcock. Now I'd like to introduce Federal Judge Earl Gilliam, who will then present Mrs. King.
Ms. King, I'm very sorry about the weather here today. Roger did mention that, but tomorrow I'm going to go out and wave my hand. We are very pleased and proud that Ms. King joins us here this evening. And just a few things about her. Of course, everyone knows her as Martin Luther's wife, although Coretta is a woman in her own right. And she's received numerous awards from people all over the world. She's a lecturer, writer, concert singer, and having graduated from the Conservatory of Music in New England. Ms. King is a member of AK Honorary, and it is with a great deal of pleasure that we welcome her to our city. So let's stand and welcome her to the city.
Thank you very much. And Mayor Hitchcock and all the elected representatives that are here on the platform, and to ladies and gentlemen of the press. It's a great privilege for me to be here this afternoon to meet with individuals from this city and this state, and as well as I guess people will be coming from across the state in discussing the plans and activities for the first federal holiday. Let me certainly congratulate the city of San Diego for having acted earlier on, and there certainly have been many other cities across the nation that also have volunteered to celebrate the holiday since about 1969. That was the first birthday after Martin's death that we all celebrated. We formed the official memorial to Martin in Atlanta, the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Change. The organization of which I serve as president and chief executive officer, and we started promoting the whole idea of a holiday from 1969 on, and we believed that somehow, someday, that the holiday would become a reality. We realized that it would take some time for the nation to to accept the fact that that there should be a holiday for a Black American, American who transcended race, transcended religion or cultural differences. He was a universal man, and one who believed that the nation and the world could become the kind of place where people could live together as brothers and sisters and could resolve their conflicts without violence. He fought in his lifetime against the evils of poverty, racism, and war, which are all forms of violence. And in establishing the official memorial to his life and contributions, we felt it was important that we develop an institution that would institutionalize his method of change, his method of struggle to make America a better America, a more just America, and a more democratic America, and to make the world a more peaceful world. And he gave us this method in the example that he set in the way in which he mobilized communities against the injustices of his day. And his philosophy was based on love and truth and that kind of unconditional love which loves the individual person but may very much dislike the evil or the system of injustice that an individual might be caught up under. And therefore, he taught us those principles, and he also taught us the process by which we make that change come about. I think it is important as we celebrate this holiday that we live the dream, which has been chosen as a theme, living the dream, that we live the dream, particularly on the day of January 20th, 1986, when the whole world will come together and commemorate the life of a man who was willing to give his life and said that he wanted to be remembered as one who tried to love and serve humanity. And as we approach this holiday, we want all Americans to become involved. It must be an all-American holiday. It must be celebrated in a spirit of love and reconciliation and to promote justice and goodwill. It's the only holiday that one of the objectives is to promote good race relations. We want to minimize the differences that exist, although there are differences among us, but we come together around those things that make us one, a common humanity, so to speak. We call for a cessation of all hostilities on that day, wherever there are military maneuvers or whether there is fighting among liberation groups. We are calling for one day of armistice, one day of peace, in tribute to a man who was a peacemaker, who received the Nobel Peace Prize because he understood that peace and justice were indivisible, and that we could not have peace without justice, and we could not have justice without peace. And so we're calling on all Americans to involve themselves in a day of celebration and a day of Thanksgiving and a day of reflection and a day of recommitment to the continuation of the fulfillment of his dream to make America a better America and a world a better world. So I want to say that as we begin our conference in the next couple of days here, that I'm very pleased that so many people have come. There will be a number of people coming, I understand, throughout the state who are part of the commission, but a part of also of the local planning efforts. Each unit of government has been asked to have an official celebration as well as a state celebration, and then the federal celebration. I chair the Federal Holiday Commission, which was legislated in 1984 in August and signed by the President. And the commission was established, was called for the establishment of a commission, and we started planning for that commission a month later. January 1985, the Federal Holiday Commission was installed at the King Center. We felt that it should be broad-based and it should represent not only Democrats but Republicans. It should be a bipartisan commission. The legislation actually calls for half Democrat and half Republican. We certainly wanted all of the religious and racial groups, ethnic groups represented, but we wanted those particular sectors of our society that worked very closely with Martin, civil and human rights communities, labor community, religious community, the education community, the business and industry, of course, community, sports community, the entertainment community, and of course the youth community, the Hispanic. We tried to have representation from all of the various the major ethnic groups in our society. Unfortunately, there were not enough slots to include every single one, but we made it up by adding them to the committees. So there are 18 standing committees. There are 4 senators, 4 representatives, 4 appointees from the White House, 2 King Center board representatives, 2 family members, and myself, and then there were 14 at large. And so these months of planning have been very exciting, and I think this is the 4th or 5th time that I've been into California since last January or February, I think it was, when I came out here. And, you know, I must like California and the people here pretty well to spend as much time as I have, and I've visited the Bay Area, Los Angeles twice, the Bay Area twice, in Sacramento and San Jose, and of course now I'm in San Diego. So I have come back here today because I am very much concerned about the involvement of all the people of this great state of California. California is a great state. It's given us great leadership for our country over the years, and we look forward to the continuation of that leadership. And I've seen, since I've arrived, very fine young people who are working and planning and promoting this activity. And I'm impressed when I see young people involved, because it is the youth of our nation that is going to carry forth the torch And those of us who are older, my age and older, have passed on, and I think we have to prepare for that. One of the things that we've been able to do during this holiday preparation is to prepare materials for our young people, for the school systems. We have materials from the elementary level, through the grades and on adult level, both in terms of teaching materials for curriculums for the public school system, as well as video materials. We have some excellent film that will be available after this January that we participated with the producers and the organizations that are putting these together and putting up the money. But we've been able to help shape those, and I think it's going to be really very exciting for the future of the young people who are very young today, but who don't know anything about that period of history that Martin Luther King Jr. led the civil rights, civil and human rights movement. But I think in the future we'll have, there won't be too many young people, and I hope none, that will not know who Martin Luther King Jr. is. Let me just mention that there are 2 national days that we are concerned about, but you should be involved in activities in your local communities, and we've suggested the kind of things that you can do, and the brochures, I believe, that are available in the kits that you have. But we would like to call your attention to the fact that on the 16th of January in Washington, D.C., there will be a joint session of Congress and an unveiling of a bust of Martin at the Capitol Rotunda, and that will be placed permanently in the Capitol later in the year. Then, of course, there will be a reception with Mayor Barrick and the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps co-chairing it, and there will be some other activities and ecumenical service in the evening, and some of us will go to Washington, and some people will come from outside of Washington, D.C., and on the 20th we will gather in Atlanta for the official day, and the officials of government will be in Atlanta and many others. We will start the day with an ecumenical service, a wreath-laying ceremony, and then a march and parade. We thought it would be better to have a combination because the parade is all American and the march is symbolic of struggle and throughout history. We've had people who have been oppressed in any way becoming involved in marches, starting with Moses, leading the children of Egypt to the Promised Land. And we remember Gandhi in the Salt March, and we remember Martin Luther King Jr. and his marches. But on that day, we're going to be marching for that which is good and which is the best that is in the American dream that we all believe in. It won't be a protest march that day. We march because of symbolic reasons, but it's going to be a day of promoting unity and love and brotherhood and sisterhood and peace and justice and all those things that I think that will make for a sense of community and for a climate of goodwill that will promote our common goals. When that day is over, we want to continue that spirit throughout the year, so that it will not be just one day when we talk about Martin and his meaning, but that it will become institutionalized and it will go on in that spirit into the years to come. I could say some other things. We've invited the key officials in government and others to come to Atlanta. We'll have a conference on poverty and world hunger with participation of the international community, the World Bank, Last year, we had a conference, and the World Bank president was there, and we will continue that. We are going to be forming, the King Center will be a convener for an international coalition to end poverty and world hunger. The World Bank is working with us and is promoting the idea. We are a non-governmental organization affiliated with the United Nations, and we understand that there is a role that can be played at that level. Also, the Conference Against Apartheid. And our overall theme is living the dream, ending the violence of poverty and world hunger and apartheid through creative nonviolent action. And Bishop Tutu will be there with us on the 19th when we have the Conference Against Apartheid, and many other participants in that struggle. I think it's important that we deal with the issues that Martin dealt with in his lifetime that are still unresolved. He identified those, as I said, as poverty, racism, and war. And he said they are all interrelated, they're universal, and they are indivisible. You can't solve one without working toward the solution of the other. And I think we made some progress in the direction of resolving these, but we still have a distance to go. And so as we approach this holiday, I hope that all people of goodwill will be a part of this celebration. And there are some 46 states now, I think, that have a holiday. We hope for the governors that will issue a proclamation to make sure that we have the 50 states. We have one territory that's not yet organized. We have almost 40 commissions or councils. So I think that's a good record of achievement up to this point. And I think that if there are any particular questions that people in the audience would like to raise at this point, I'd be glad to entertain them.
Mrs. King, you said that this holiday hopefully will be a day to promote good race relations, and yet in South Africa there's so much strife over apartheid. Could you comment on that?
I think that what we are saying is that even in South Africa, where there is a struggle going on that will not end, very soon, that on that particular day, we would hope that those persons who are the oppressors and those who are the ones who are not yet free, struggling, will somehow pause and pay tribute to Martin Luther King Jr., who gave us a method of struggle, the nonviolent philosophy and strategy of social change that I think has been proven to be effective if it is understood and followed. And we hope that that will be the case on that day. But even beyond that, I think that we would like to see that day be a day when we are moved a little closer toward the goals that Martin Luther King Jr. fought for and gave his life.
Do you feel that the climate of racial relations has improved since his death?
I think in terms of progress and in terms of some areas of our life, particularly in the area of political representation, we have made gains which have, I think, advanced the cause of race relations because we are more representative in the government. Our nation is more democratic as a result of the efforts that have been put forth since his death, the continuation of getting people registered and running for public office and that kind of thing. There has been some effort toward improving the economic conditions, but that is, has been very, very slow. The thing that has happened is that there has been a recognition through legislation that government contracts that are let should, 10% of those should be given to minority businesses, and of course that legislation has been threatened, but you know, it still is there, and black business people are able to benefit, contractors and so forth, from this. That has helped some, but the vast majority of people who are unskilled are still there, and others have been added to that role. And I think that is because we have not really together as not only just the government, but the private sector and the government and the labor sector really have to work together, I think, to solve these problems, have come together to make a serious commitment toward a long-term comprehensive approach to solving the problem. We've done some things that have helped, but they have not been aimed at eradicating the problem, and I think that's where we have to go.
Pardon me, if I could interrupt for a second. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, because of the lateness of the hour, I think what we should do is move right to our pledge card and make that announcement. I'd like that everyone on the stage can join us, and we'll go right to the pledge card, and then we have scores and hundreds, Mrs. King, of San Diegans waiting to meet you and greet you out in the foyer, so I think we should move right to that. Joining me on stage, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't had an opportunity to meet them, are Reverend Robert C.R. from Christ Church of San Diego. Bob Matthews is the president of the Educational Cultural Complex here. Councilman William Jones, Councilman of the 4th District. Board of Supervisors Chairman Leon Williams. Of course, Gilliam, who we've met. Roger Hitchcock, our mayor of San Diego. Charles Reed, Board of Trustees of the Community College District. And lastly, Reverend George Walker Smith of Christ United Presbyterian Church. Also, from the governor's office, Suzanne Fisher. For those of you who can't see it, this is a Living the Dream pledge, and it reads as follows. In honor of Martin Luther King Jr.'s life and work, I pledge to do everything that I can to make America and the world a place where equality and justice, freedom and peace will grow and flourish.
I commit myself to this dream by loving, not hating, showing understanding, not anger, and making peace, not war. We need a photo.
what you guys did. The announcement you signed on is worth $100,000.
Okay. Okay.
Michelle, you want me to announce it? Everybody signed it? I announced it, all the officials here have signed it. And I got a chance to sign it, too. Thank you.
We hope to get thousands of these, millions of these, really, before it's over, and getting them signed, not only here, but outside. Through the United Nations and the World
Okay, I think we'll adjourn now upstairs to the foyer where reception, I think your representative is waiting for us. Please join us. We will go right to our program, and I'd like to introduce at this time the San Diego State University Gospel Choir under the directorship of Marvin Curtis.
Sound out as the rolling sea.
Reverend Robert Ard, Christ Church of San Diego.
Let me ask that each of you join hands with the person that you're standing next to as we prepare to pray. It does not require any conversation to reach out and take a hand. Let us do so, standing erect with our eyes open, holding one another's hand and observing the beauty that God has so bountifully bestowed upon us. And let us do so with a clear conscience and a pure heart. Dear God, I give thanks and praise to you for Martin Luther King Jr., for his life and the lessons that he taught. I pray your blessings upon his wife, who is doing all that she can to ensure that we never forget those lessons. I pray your blessings upon this gathering and those gatherings throughout this country and this world where men and women, boys and girls come together to do the very best they can to make the world a better place. Bless us because of the life of Martin Luther King Jr. We know that it is possible for us to live together in peace. In the name of Jesus the Christ, I pray, give thanks and praise. Amen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I want to take this chance, this opportunity to welcome you to this, the Educational Cultural Complex, a facility that is unique within itself. First of all, this facility accommodates all cultures, all races throughout the United States. And I think it is appropriate that we're meeting here this evening. And for the commissioners who will be planning the federal holiday, I want to say to you and to Mrs. King, we want you to have a very good time while you're planning here in San Diego. Certainly we hope the weather will change so they will accommodate you also. I'll leave that up to Mayor Hedgecock and Supervisor Williams and Councilman Jones to take care of the weather if they can. I understand they can't do that yet. But we want to welcome all of you here for this festive occasion, this occasion of celebration with Mrs. Coretta Scott King. Thank you very much.
And that the Board of Supervisors and the City Council have a way to go when it comes to controlling the weather. But I do want to commend the Commission for holding the hearings here with respect to Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. I want to say to everybody here, it's rather evident, I think, that the struggle for which Dr. Martin Luther King gave his life and was perhaps the world's most articulate spokesman goes on. You're here as testimony to that. All of us know every day that that struggle goes on. I think the fact that it's going on, though, means that we recognize that we have a way to go to become civilized. And the fact that we are here means that we are on the road to becoming civilized. I hope that one of these days, the struggle for human justice and for human rights will end, and that we will all be equal human beings. In the meantime, I would like to give to Mrs. King, who shared with her husband the struggle for human rights, this special commendation which reads, "Special commendation to Coretta Scott King for outstanding accomplishments in improving race relations throughout the world."
Councilman William Jones from the 4th District.
Thank you very much, Mrs. King. As a member of the San Diego City Council, I would like to welcome you here to the City of San Diego and to the 4th Council District. In this community, this is where the Martin Luther King Day Parade is held. This is where the parade is held. This is also where we have a 35-acre park named in Dr. King's honor. This also is a place where we struggle together, we work together. This is a part of the City of San Diego that perhaps has not benefited from all of the equal opportunity that we talked about earlier. We haven't benefited as much from the sharing of the American pie. And so it's very important that we're here today celebrating, and we're here today planning, and tomorrow, this great occasion. We welcome you here to this part of the city. We want you to feel that any time that you're here in California, that San Diego can be your home and will be your home at any time. Thank you very much.
To Mrs. King, on behalf of your husband, from Congressman Jim Bates and from myself, who had the pleasure of marching with you from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, we welcome you to San Diego. We hope that the planning that will take place this year will be the most festive occasion in honor of Dr. King that this nation has ever known. We plan to be a part of that so that we can contribute to that. And here tonight in our city will be one of the greatest parades sponsored by the Alpha Kappa Alpha fraternity, headed by Dr. Robert Matthews, who's president of ECC in San Diego. We will do it upright in his memory, and we thank you for your perseverance, and continued efforts to support the kinds of ideas that Dr. King stood for himself that benefits all of us. Thank you, and God bless you.
We have a special presentation from Mrs. King's sorority, the AKAs.
Mrs. King, as president of the AKA sorority, we officially welcome you to San Diego. We're so proud to know that you're a member of our sorority.
Many of you were here a couple of years ago when Mr. Lake, an artist, a local artist, came and dedicated the tapestry here that hangs so beautifully in the ECC. He's here today, Mrs. King, and has a special presentation for you. Mr. Lake.
It is indeed an honor to be able to make this token presentation of a memorial dedicated to your husband. This tapestry that is behind me, it was dedicated in 1983, and this is a little description of the tapestry. And it describes the underlying philosophy of the design.
And wake up in the middle of the night and say, what did they say? AKA is both a fraternity and a sorority. No, it is not. Let me clarify that. The AKAs is a sorority. Alpha Phi Alpha is a fraternity. Okay? Having said that, there's so many important people here. As a matter of fact, as I look out over this greatest morning, I could just go on until the wee hours of the evening. It's very good to see each and every one of you, and let's give each other a round of applause. Before I introduce Suzanne Fisher from the governor's office to introduce to you Mrs. Coretta Scott King, I must thank Bob Matthews, the wonder and a real gem of a person to work with. He's got a fabulous staff here, and I thank you, Bob, wherever you are. Thank you for allowing us to have our reception for Mrs. King in this community. Thank you for allowing the Western Planning Conference to meet in this facility, as well as Governor Duke Majan's commission for Martin Luther King's first holiday. I would be remiss if I did not thank some of the companies that have helped out. Southland Corporation, who helped relations.
Thank you, Michelle. It's really a pleasure to see so many of you come out tonight on such a rainy night. I know it was a real sacrifice, and some of you braved tremendous traffic difficulties to get here, and thank you very much. On behalf of Governor Duke Majan and our State Holiday Commission, I'd also like to thank ECC for letting us use their facility today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Our State Commission will be meeting here on Wednesday, and many of you are welcome to attend. And tomorrow we will have our Western Regional Planning Conference, which will include participants from the various western states surrounding California. And we will plan what will be, I think, one of the most memorable celebrations of Dr. King's birthday to ever take place.
thank you very much for that very warm and generous welcome. Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you, Michael, and all of the distinguished persons who have made presentations to me. I shall treasure those, and they will be placed among the other treasures that I have accumulated across the years, and will end up in the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change in Atlanta, in the Archives Division for display from time to time. Thank you, all of you, for coming out this evening and for your past and future participation in continuing to carry on the work and the dream of Martin Luther King Jr. As we approach the first federal holiday, we have selected as our theme, Living the Dream. I think that that is something that is not easy to do. We have talked about Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream across the years, and I think most of the people who are adults and who are old enough in 1963, when he gave that speech, to remember the speech, were very much impacted by it, and they remember quite vividly how they felt when they heard it on that momentous day in August 1963, when he talked about his dream for America and the world. When we were trying to select a theme that we could rally around for this holiday, we felt that it had to include the dream, but how? After 17 years or more, we need to start living the dream. And that's why we felt it was important to say living the dream, begin to act it out in our everyday lives, in our relationships between ourselves and others, within our own families, between ourselves and our children, and our husbands and wives, and those people who are neighbors, as well as those who are strangers. Martin Luther King Jr. not only embraced the nonviolent philosophy, and he demonstrated through the strategies of nonviolence that we could change our nation from a nation that was totally segregated in the South toward a nation that was more fair and equitable to all of its citizens, and that the legal barriers could be brought down as a result of the nonviolent method and philosophy undergirding that method. He gave us that method of struggle, and he left us the blueprint for us to follow. And what we have attempted to do in the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change, which is the official living memorial to his life and contributions in Atlanta, is to systematize that philosophy and teach it and help demonstrate how it can be applied to every aspect of our lives. It is important to understand that Martin's effectiveness as a leader was based on his complete embracing of the nonviolent philosophy. Let me say a word about what that means. Nonviolence is based on love, and all great religions also based on love. The foundation of all great religions is love. And when I talk about love, I'm talking about unconditional love. I'm not talking about a sentimental kind of love, but it is that kind of love that God has for humankind. And Martin says it's the love of God operating in the human heart, so that you love all people, not just some people. We don't choose the people that we love. We love human beings because all life is sacred, and that life should be ennobled, and that we respect the worth and dignity of every human being, and therefore we don't prejudge people. Martin himself demonstrated in his own life and his relationship to others, and in the movement context, as he organized campaigns, nonviolent campaigns throughout the South and in many parts of the nation, that love ethic could be translated into action. And love that is not translated into action is not worth very much. So when we talk about love, that means you act on love, because I don't believe you love unless you show it. So that's why it's important to talk about living the dream. On that day, we're going to demonstrate what it means to be loving and caring and sharing and giving human beings. We're going to demonstrate that we're going to involve everyone at the table of brotherhood, because Martin talked about that in his dream. It should not be just a holiday for us black folks to get together and, you know, celebrate and, in a sense, feel very special, because Martin Luther King Jr. is one of two Americans who have been so honored. Our first president, George Washington, and secondly, Martin Luther King Jr. But it is a time when we humble ourselves as individuals and be grateful and thankful that God allowed such a noble human being to live among us, even though only for a short period of time, 39 years. Not a long time, 12 and a half years of leadership in the nonviolent movement. What the love philosophy does, it transforms. It transforms, first of all, oneself. When we embrace the love ethic, it works on our own spirits and our own hearts. And as we become more loving and more appreciative of ourselves, then it helps us to reach out to others in this regard. You can't give love if you don't understand love. If you don't have love, you can't give it. But if you have it, you can give it. And that's why I think it's important for us to start with the young people, the babies, really, to teach this understanding that children can grow up in a loving home and environment, parents who love them not selfishly, but who love them unconditionally, and who demonstrate in their own lives this love. And if we can somehow do this, starting at that level, and we felt that it was important to do it because we've established a program at the King Center called our Early Learning Center, where we teach the principles of nonviolence to young children, babies from 6 months to 5 years, in our Early Learning Center. And we start with them, and we develop a curriculum for that level.
It is a demonstration model, and we would like to see it replicated throughout the country. As a matter of fact, all of our programs are done that way. They're all based on the philosophy of love and nonviolence. Martin said, I got my motivation and inspiration from Jesus and my techniques from Gandhi. And he said that I had despaired of the love ethic, the Christian love ethic, being able to solve social problems, to be a force for social transformation until I came across Gandhi. And here was an example of that love being translated into action programs. And that's really what we're talking about. It's not a matter of being passive and giving in, but it is being active in a spiritual sort of way and not cooperating with evil and injustice. When we saw Martin in the marches and others who worked and followed his leadership, we thought that what they were doing was nonviolence. Well, that was just one step in the process. As a matter of fact, it was the 5th step in the process. And what we are talking about as we approach this holiday is a process that we are beginning in terms of bringing people together, coming together and working together around common concerns, using the personality and the symbolism of Martin and the example of Martin Luther King Jr. as our rallying point. It seems to me that more people have been brought together around what Martin Luther King Jr. stood for, his principles, than any other thing that I can think of in my lifetime, and perhaps, you know, in this century. I don't know of an individual who brought as many people together for a good cause that did change the conditions of many people's lives and change the direction of a nation that said it was founded on the principles of equality and that all people in that nation were created equal. Well, we were not equal by the Constitution when the Constitution was written, but that Constitution had been modified and changed, and after Martin Luther King Jr., we became, we were written more into the Constitution, into the laws of this country, because we had to go back and pass civil rights laws that would help to advance the cause of black and minority people. Black people were not written into the Constitution, and neither were women. No matter what color the woman was,